Hello, greetings. I'm here live at the Wharton Future of Work conference. And look, I, just like Mr. Rogers, put on my cardigan for the occasion. I have 7 minutes with you to answer your most highly voted up questions. And the first one is, how can companies use data in order to assess and develop the mindset of employees? Well, the short answer is there aren't very well developed ways to do that yet. But the longer answer is I think if you ask yourself, when in the life of an employee are they most anxious and possibly most likely to fall back into the trap of fixed mindset beliefs? It might be the annual performance review. I saw data recently from Wharton People Analytics senior researcher Matt Killingsworth that had a rank ordering of happiness in different social interactions. How happy are you with your friends, with your family, with your coworkers? And all the way at the bottom was conversations with my boss, right? So if you think of your typical performance review, a conversation with your boss, that can be not so fun. I think a lot of times we go into those and we want to look smart and we want to look like we know it all and that we knew it all in the year that passed before the performance review. But if you take that opportunity to say, as a manager, am I quantifying not just the outcomes, not just the wins and the hit rate, but also the learning behaviors? Like, what evidence was there? And have I been counting all 365 days of the year? What risks people took, their proactive desire to learn more, to go to a workshop, to come to the Wharton Future of Works, seminars, et cetera. Can I quantify those? That's data. And can I add that to the performance review so that I'm incentivizing and quantifying learning and not just the wins that are, of course, a downstream result of the learning. Second question, we are increasingly hearing about imposter syndrome, so we are. How can mindset counteract this? I'm not yet aware of research that connects imposter syndrome, which is essentially the belief that you're not as great as people think you are, right? That's what imposter syndrome is like, everyone thinks I'm great. Secretly, I'm not, and they haven't figured it out yet. I'm not aware of research connecting that with growth mindset or fixed mindset. But I do think there is a connection. So let me just speculate. I think when you walk around trying to make sure that everybody, believes that you're as smart as you can be, and also you're worried that they might find out that you're not smart enough, fixed mindset kind of sets you up for imposter syndrome in a way that growth mindset ought not to. You walk into a room and you say, I actually don't know what's going on here. I may not actually be the smartest person in the room. I'm really eager to learn, right? To me, that's kind of incompatible with the imposter syndrome. So I would say that, if you yourself have felt imposter syndrome, you're not alone. Almost everyone I know, including very high achievers, have felt exactly that way at some point, and maybe more often than you think. And the second thing is, if you don't like that feeling, if you don't want to actually worry that someone's going to find you out for being less great than you are, then maybe take your growth mindset as a kind of shield, because that will enable you to walk in the room the way I would like you to walk in the room, which is, hey, I might not know a lot, but my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. I'm very eager to learn. All right, there's another question. What are the skills of growth mindset? How can you build them? Let me give you one practical tip. As somebody who's inevitably going to need to give feedback, both positive feedback and negative feedback to your peers, upward feedback to your manager, and then feedback also to the people who are working for you. I would say that in both cases, for positive feedback and negative feedback, rather than focusing on the person, Angela, you are so smart. Angela, you're such a natural public speaker. Focus on the process or the task or the job or the thing that is actually the object of your praise. Instead of, Angela, you're such a natural public speaker, you could say, Angela, I really like the way that you held the conversation with Carol. It was nice that you matched her tempo, right? It's very specific. It's about the talk. It's not about me. So that's positive. But equally, if you say, Angela, I have to give you a little feedback on your conversation with Carol Dweck. You could have maybe interrupted her a little less. Next time, try to interrupt a little less in the conversation. It's very different from, Angela, you're the sort of person who kind of interrupts, right? So criticism or praise is ideally about the process, not about the person. And I know time is short, but I'm going to try to squeeze in at least one more. How do we foster growth mindset in communities with concentrated disadvantage? And I did see as well related questions about, how am I supposed to have a growth mindset when, I feel like there are structural inequalities that disadvantage me, and so it's not all in the mind, right? It's not just about believing in growth mindset or believing in fixed mindset. This is absolutely a timely question, and I want to say this without denying the fact that there are people who don't believe in you, people who may be walking around who love a culture of genius. Without denying that, I think we can do something that human beings are very good at doing, which is we can then draw our attention to something that is useful and productive. In other words, you could say, I recognize that this is going on and I don't like it. I recognize that this is going on, I don't like it. Over here is something that I can do something about. And people with a growth mindset tend to be proactive, and they tend to draw their attention to the very small part of the puzzle, maybe, that they have some autonomy and control over. Okay, last question, because I only have a couple more minutes with you. And that is if the tone at the top, it's in air quotes, is fixed, what actions do you suggest to allow change from below toward growth to take shape? Well, it's very true that role models are important to culture. And it's also true that the role models at the top, right, the senior executives, the founder and leader, these have the greatest influence, arguably, over the organizational culture. But we've all had families, right? We've all been in classrooms where even if there's 2 or 3 people, there's still culture. There are microcultures. So maybe you as an individual have very little control over the macro culture of a huge organization, but you can smile when you enter the room. You can say things like, you know what? Thank you, Carol, for making me so much smarter. Like today, I really felt like my brain was growing. And at the beginning of this meeting, I knew a lot less than I did at the end. That is creating a microculture that is growth oriented, that is positive, and doesn't really matter what's going on at the macro culture for you to do exactly that. I want to tell you what's coming next, and I also want to thank you for the time you're spending with me. Dan Pink is awesome sauce. I love this book. What did I say about this book? I said that it is incomparably candid, clear, and concise. So stay tuned for Dan Pink, and thank you for coming to the Wharton Future of Work conference.